Hello and welcome to Geek Addicts, the pop culture podcast where all we got to do is drink all our milk. My name is Matt. With me, the Soul Reaper, Bill Byra. How's it going, Bill?
See, if you said Soul Reaver, I could have made like a really cool like Legacy of Kain reference, but that's fine.
How's things with you, Bill?
Oh, I'm tired. I was up till midnight playing The Sims 2 because I have a problem. Um, you
What
know,
year is it?
well, fun fact, EA just re-released The Sims 1 and 2 on Steam last night. So,
No kidding.
yeah, Sims 2 is incredibly crash prone though. So, yeah,
Yes.
that's not fun. But $40 for both games with all the expansion packs, like it's not a bad deal.
No, not at all. Um. So yeah, I've gotten some anime done this week.
Nice.
First of all, I forgot to mention in the last episode we talked about it afterwards, but I did in fact watch Don to Don.
Oh,
Um,
nice. Finally got that
and
done and over with.
yeah. I mean, over with is kind of a stretch. I mean, it wasn't bad. I enjoyed it. It's not a show that I'm like on the edge of my seat to see what happens next. Although the way they leave off first season is kind of bullshit.
See, I my whole time watching that was the first time I've ever watched a show in the background. Like I know like Slade didn't really care for it. I don't know. For some reason, like it started out and I was just like, I don't know if I like this show or not. And I
Mhm.
got through it. I was playing RuneScape while watching it for the most part. And then we got to episode 7 and I was like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Um, um, so I watched that and then immediately went back to, oh, it's just this again. Okay.
Yeah.
did he
I mean,
did he
I
get the whole
hmm?
time watching? I'm like, did he get his balls back yet? Nope. Okay.
He got one of them. He got one of them. Are you drinking a Mountain Dew?
No, it's one of those gross monster coffee things because
Oh, okay.
I needed caffeine and Mountain Dew
I
makes me feel
gotcha.
like poop. So
Well, that's why I thought it was weird. I saw the green can. I was like, wait a minute. Bill doesn't
no.
drink Mountain Dew.
The
He's not
last time
psychotic.
the last time I had a Mountain Dew, like a legit Mountain Dew, I think I was still in high school. And I don't remember which year of high school. So,
Don't tell anyone, but this has whiskey in it.
yeah,
It's one of those weekends.
I can imagine.
Um,
It's
so yeah, aside from Dawn to Dawn, I finished uh, uh getting up to date with Demon Slayer, and I kind of already had this kind of feeling about it, but now that it's actually I've gotten to the point where it was actually revealed like where the demons come from. I understand because that was such a weak reveal.
hmm,
Like honestly, I would have preferred it if they just been like, no, there's just not going to be an explanation. It's just demons are just a thing. But no, they left those like little like, oh, here's like a little hint about what it is, and then when you actually find out what it is, you're like, this is the laziest bullshit I've ever seen in my life. It's the kind of shit I would have come up while I was trying to write a story in middle school.
yeah. I'm pretty sure I wrote the same story in middle school, like for every exam, and that's why I failed them all. But
I don't know. It's a very pretty show. I'll say that. It's very pretty.
a lot of
Um,
people say they prefer the show over the manga because the manga's kind of bland without the action and animation.
mhm. Which
I've
I mean,
never
at least one thing it has going for it is that it's not a super long show, and it doesn't seem like it's
true.
going to be a super long show. So, like, I don't know. It just got to point to like I already had like the kind of conception about it before I watched it, and now it's like, and I'm not the kind of person generally who will be like, oh, that's your favorite anime, you. But like now I kind of feel that way about Demon Slayer. It's like if somebody says that's their favorite, I'm like, ugh.
Well, at least it's not like the My Hero Academia fans were like the running joke is that they're the smelliest anime community.
Jeez. That's my
Like
first time hearing it, but
oh no, that's like a legit thing. Like you go to conventions and it's like you see the My Hero Academia fans and you just go, ew.
Well, part of it is probably because the fucking just based on like what I've seen, like the outfits in My Hero were so like I can imagine it being a very sweaty outfit to wear.
Well, My Hero is a really weird one to me because that show is so inspired by like American comics, particularly DC comics. Um, you think I'd be all over that, but for some reason, it's never done anything for me.
Mhm. That's fair. I'm gonna watch it.
I
That's
mean,
on my list of things to get through this year. But
I'll probably give it an honest shot at some point. I mean, things on I have things that are priority, as I've been told
mhm.
multiple times by multiple people over the last couple of months.
Years.
You know, um,
If you know, you know.
yeah, um, yeah. It's weird because I'm like my anime watching right now is weird because it's mostly ongoing shows because I'm actually doing like a thing where I'm watching a bunch of shows weekly, which is
Mhm.
different for me because I'm not used to doing that because I've got one show we're going to talk about shortly. Um, I'm also watching Apothecary Diaries season 2, Solo Leveling season 2, and Sakamoto Days, which I just actually watched the newest episode of that right before we started recording. And I have to say, that is a manga I've been reading since the start. And my biggest complaint with it is it starts out really good and then kind of loses the plot as it goes on.
Mhm.
So the anime itself has been really interesting watching it, and it's actually made me kind of realize why I like that manga so much.
That's
I'm
fair.
curious how they're going to handle it when they do get to the middle part that we're currently at, where it's kind of slow. But yeah, I'm doing that, and then my major project right now, which has been an adventure, to say the least, is I'm watching Ghost Stories,
Yay.
and all I can say is, "What the fuck?" Like,
Yeah, they were really going like so far out of their way to try and like push it as far as they can.
well, you know the story behind Ghost Stories, right?
Oh yeah.
Like it supposedly, apparently, this is kind of a stretch. Like, supposedly, the show wasn't massively successful in Japan, which the degree of how successful it was in Japan is often just kind of like it's hazy on how much it actually succeeded slash failed. But the general consensus is it wasn't massively successful. Um, so when they sent it off to America, they basically told ADV like, we don't care, do whatever the fuck you want, just
Mhm.
try to follow the story. Which they did for like 5 episodes, and then they just said fuck it. And yeah, um,
Yeah.
it's. Did you know? I didn't. I was doing research. There is a second dub of that show.
Is there?
There's an anime's dub. It's lost media now, but it's actually a true to text faithful dub.
Interesting.
You can still find 5 episodes of it online, but the rest of it is like lost media. Like it's gone. But apparently, from what I've read, is it's really boring because the only reason anyone likes ghost stories is because of how off the wall batshit it is.
Yeah, that's about right.
You know, because we're eventually going to do a GNC on that. We're not going to be able to quote half the lines. Like we just can't.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the way the modern internet is, you can't quote anything from that show anymore because it's so early. That show is so dateable. Like you can date exactly when that dub was made just by some of
Mhm.
those lines. Like
Yeah, they really go crazy with the jokes.
they refer to a certain former president multiple times, and you can see exactly when this was recorded by just that alone.
Mhm. So I think you missed one of your ongoings. Aren't you also watching My Happy Marriage?
Right, that one too. Um,
Yeah, so you have a lot of ongoings right now. You got like at least a good like 6 episodes a week that you got to watch for
see
different shows.
the worst part is though they're spaced so badly. Because My Happy Marriage updates every Monday, and then it's nothing all week until Friday, where I get Apothecary Diaries, the show we're going to talk about shortly, those two, and then today it's Sakamoto Days and Solo Leveling.
Hmm.
It's like everything's just like clumped together in one like 2-day period, and then I have to wait the rest of the week basically.
Well, at least that gives you time to work on some other shows if you know if you have the time to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I've got like 5 more episodes of Ghost Stories to get through, and then I begin the project. But yeah, it's been interesting. I'm also
Yes.
playing. I'm playing a lot of Mario and Luigi Partners in Time right now, and I'm steamrolling that game like, as we speak because I have played that game so often. I know how to break it in half. So
Hmm. I finally, because like with not having a Switch, the games that I can play with Xander are limited now. Um, so I decided it's been long enough since the last one. I finally started a file in black and white.
nice.
So I'm playing black, he's playing white.
Oh, cool.
I haven't gotten very far. I'm like about to go into the first gym, but
See, the thing about black and white that throws me off when I play it is the fact that you actually have to pay attention to the story because it's actually good.
hmm,
Uh,
that's fair.
so it's
But
a
yeah,
it's,
I was just like, you know what? This is the only one that I out of the like Game Boy DS era of Pokemon games that I haven't played. So I should probably just give it a run through. And it's like if I'm gonna play a Pokemon game, I'm gonna want to play like one of the older ones anyway. So
hmm. No, black and white's worth it. Very much a worthwhile
that's what I
experience.
always hear. I just never gave it a shot. I don't know why, but I just never did.
Wait until you run into English Grunt,
Oh God.
the
Is it
Team
the same
Rocket
one from Gold and Silver?
from Red and Blue, the one that can't speak. He speaks broken English when you run into him,
Hmm.
and it's implied that his Japanese is fairly bad. And then you meet him in Unova, which is America, in the Pokemon universe, and he mentions how he was a Team Rocket grunt, and it's like, oh, it's this guy.
Hmm.
It's just a funny reference. That's like the fact that they even thought of that is just interesting to me.
Hmm. So yeah, I've been kind of dabbling in that. Let's see. So yeah, I also watched a couple movies this week. I watched Akira finally.
Ah, what'd you think of the ending?
I don't know what to think.
Yeah,
It was pretty wild.
which dub did you watch?
I watched the one on Crunchyroll.
That's probably the Pioneer dub, which is the better one, but also the less funny one.
That's fair.
So there's two
It was
dubs for
interesting.
there's two dubs for Akira. There's the original like 80s streamlined dub, which
Hmm.
is that's the one where all the memes come from. Actually, this is the way I can tell which dub you watched. Did you watch the one where Johnny Young Bosch plays the main character?
Yes.
Okay, you watched the Pioneer dub. The Pioneer dub was like 2001. It was a much more faithful and professionally done dub.
Hmm.
Um, which it's a good dub, but it's just not nearly as funny as the original like Steamline dub, which is just so dumb. Like
Yeah.
the thing about the Pioneer dub too that throws me off so much is Tetsuo is voiced by Joshua Seth, who's the voice of Tai from Digimon, and he doesn't change the voice. So you just
That's
hear
so
Tai
weird.
screaming fuck. And I'm just like, I hate this. I hate this so much. That's why I always watch the bad dub, just because it's nostalgic and funnier to me.
That's fair.
Yeah, that
But
ending though is
it was an enjoyable movie. But I don't know. It's like the city settings. Like it has to be a certain kind of movie for the city setting to really work on me and like in a meaningful way. Like the other movie that I watched this week, I feel like worked better on me. Um, but I still enjoyed the movie. It was still good. Um,
like the famous bike scene that's been redone in so many freaking animation projects over time.
oh yeah. Well, it's kind of become the standard. I mean, even I remember when I bought all my Naruto mangas. Like you know how like a lot of mangas will have like little blurbs between chapters here and there.
Hmm.
In the early Naruto manga, Kishimoto like has like these little like segments where he writes about his life and like how he got into drawing and manga and stuff. And he said that like the two biggest influences that got him wanting to draw manga and stuff like that were Akira and Doctor Slump.
Hmm. Makes sense because you can see a lot of that influence in his work. Yeah, Akira is that is a fascinating film. It's amazing that movie came out in the 80s because like it looks so good even today.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous.
Well,
Like the amount, especially when you consider like everything was hand drawn.
true. I say gorgeous as a choice because that ending is something.
Yeah, well, I mean, you gotta look. I mean, it's gorgeous in the way that I call the Berserk art gorgeous.
Does the South Park Trapper Keeper episode make more sense now?
I couldn't stop thinking about that the whole movie.
The whole thing, yeah. I love the fact that South Park episode is an Akira reference, a Terminator reference, and a fucking election reference because of the Bush fucking Gore election at the
That's
time. Like,
right.
there's so many, and Rosie O'Donnell dies the same way Tetsua's girlfriend does, which is really funny to me.
That's ridiculous. The other movie I watched this week though was The Girl Who Leapt Through Time. I don't know if you've seen that one, but that was a fun movie. I enjoyed it.
I've heard very good things about that.
It had some. I mean, it wasn't. I don't think as good, but it had definitely had some distinct like Your Name vibes. So I enjoyed that movie a lot. And then I also have started watching Apothecary Diaries.
Oh, nice. What do you
I'm
think
only
so
like
far?
7 episodes in, but I'm enjoying it so far.
Isn't the
I
main
like.
character great?
Oh, she's wonderful, absolutely wonderful.
She gets better. She gets a lot better. Like, so by the time this comes out, actually it came out today as we're recording. But with the most recent anime swap is of for our GNCs of that in a free run. So me and Alex went on for over 2 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
Over 2 hours with no guests. That's crazy.
Anime swaps, especially 2 animes that Alex technically picked. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was very impromptu anime swap. I watched both of them when I was dying of the plague, and I was just like, let's just do it. They're similar length. I was like, just do an anime swap. Let's get it over with.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. I still have a little bit ways to go, and I'm trying to think what I want to do after that. I'm probably gonna. I think I might just dive right into 1,000 Year Blood War. Oh, I also watched Rama One Half remake.
Oh, how is that? I still haven't got around to it.
Oh, you haven't watched it? I assumed you had.
I just don't have time.
That's fair.
Got too many other projects that are on the list first.
That's fair.
Also,
No, I enjoyed it a lot. It's very funny. The action was definitely there.
But. Yeah, it's a Ranma out of all Rumiko's stuff is the one I have the least experience with, just because it's the hardest manga to really find at the moment. But
I thought you had it.
I have the first 6 volumes because I have 3 2-in-1s.
Okay.
I have all of Yurusei Yatsura and Misunuriko. I have her other series. If I'm gonna watch one of the anime remakes, I'm probably gonna watch the Urusei Yatsura remake first.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'll get to it eventually though. It's interesting that Mappa did that.
Yeah, it is. And it's only 12 episodes too, which kind of like a little bit bummed out that it was only 12 episodes because I was really into it. It was really fun.
Yeah, especially because the original series is so much longer, but the original series also misses like half the manga, so
yeah. It's typical for anime of that time.
Yeah, and I'm also a little bummed that I don't think they got Richard Ian Cox back to do male Ranma.
I don't think so.
I doubt it because that would be expensive because getting Canadian actors to do dubs is very not easy. That's why Ocean doesn't get a lot of work anymore.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think once I finish up Apothecary Diaries, I think I'm gonna dive into 1,000 Year Blood War because I'm pretty sure the dub is finished on that now. So at least for part 3, I don't know if there's gonna be more or if that's it, but
yeah. All right, so we should probably jump into our new segment for the show. Dama time. Do I have fun background music for this? Probably not.
Oh well, we'll figure that out.
There we go. It's random acoustic guitar.
Jeez. So I, for being totally honest, I kind of forgot about the segment. I did watch it last week, but if I had remembered that we were doing the segment, I would have watched it again this morning. But
It's okay because it's another episode where nothing happens. So,
well, I mean, I wouldn't say nothing happens. It's
well,
kind of like,
Goku fights at a bar.
yeah. Well, we
This
kind of get like more like build up, you know.
true. I mean, we get a bit more of the new characters. Backstory. I don't like the acoustic cinematic anymore. No, that's annoying too. Oh, this one works. Okay. Yeah. This is an interesting one because I feel like Daima starts off very slow.
Yeah, it's definitely a slow burn. Especially considering it's only going to be 20 episodes total.
Mm.
I mean, unless Toei decide they want to take it further, but as far as like the original plan that was mapped out by Toriyama, it was only supposed to be the 20 episode series. So this one starts with what? Goku, Supreme Kai, and Glorio like heading to the demon realm, like they go to the Warp Sama or Lord Warp, I guess they call him in the dub.
Yeah.
And Goku immediately pisses him off because he calls him a goldfish.
As Goku does, yes.
Mm-hmm. And like repeatedly too. He's just like, well, a Popeye goldfish? He's like, still a goldfish.
It's really weird watching this just because like watching the dub anyways, because like Stephanie Nadame's voice is so iconic, but it feels weirdly out of place with all of these other like newer actors.
Mm-hmm.
It's still taking a bit to get used to, but she's slowly getting back into it.
Yeah, it's like it's still like very recognizably like the original Goku voice for Kid Goku, but like it's you can tell like she's still trying to scrape the rust off, you know.
Yeah, you can tell she's definitely older too. Like age will change your voice no matter. Like I always say, like in like Yashahime, when like the main cast comes back for their few appearances during that show, Richard Ian Cox's voice is definitely different as Inuyasha, but you can still tell it's him. So it's kind of a similar thing like that.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, they don't really do a wicked lot, do they?
No, they kind of go through the thing. They end up at a bar because Goku's hungry, because of course he is. And he
it was mostly like just them like on the way, and then they get there and they're like, all right, let's go get a room, you know.
Yeah, and of course, and Goku's like, I'm hungry, and they're like, you just ate, and he's like, I'm always hungry, and it's weird how when he's younger he's hungrier. I guess it makes sense. I guess
he's a grown boy.
Yeah, growing like 50-year-old boy.
Something like that.
Well, actually, no, he's died, so he's probably still in his like 40s, but whatever.
Yeah, he was dead for 7 years, and then another year on top of that in the Saiyan saga. So he stopped aging for like 8 years.
Yeah, and his wife got older than him.
Yep.
Poor Chi-Chi.
Dude, I never really thought of that, huh? I guess Chi-Chi is older than him now. I guess even. Wow.
Even with like the years that he gets cut off in the time chamber, like I think she's still older than him.
Unless you include Super.
I think even by Super, he's like a little bit closer to getting back to proper, but like he's still like technically younger than her.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know. Age is weird in Dragon Ball.
Yeah, and that explains why she looks so much fucking older than everybody in GT. But
yeah. So like, how are you feeling about Glorio as a character so far?
I like him just mostly because I like Aaron Disku's performance.
Mm-hmm.
But we still don't know enough about him to really have a solid opinion, other than he's very much an Aaron Discu character. Like that guy's perfect for this role.
Yeah.
I will say the fight scene in the bar with Goku was pretty epic.
Yeah. It just really was like like showing what they can do with this.
Well, it was very nostalgic watching it because it reminded me a lot of original Dragon Ball. Just the more he had to actually like fight and not just laser strike charge for 5 hours and then spirit bomb, whatever he does
Yeah.
nowadays.
I gotcha. I did like the whole interaction between Glorio and the guy who like runs the hotel or whatever.
Mm.
How like the dude is like very clearly trying to rip them off, and he just like he pulls aside his coat and shows the pistol.
Yeah,
It's like the whole the whole like kind of gunslingery kind of situation. I like that whole bit. I like that Glorio uses a gun. Like you don't really see characters in Dragon Ball like use a gun effectively.
because they're like useless. Like when I think of guns in Dragon Ball, I think of the fucking first episode where Bulma shoots Goku in the head and it does nothing.
Yeah,
And it was like that's basically guns in this show from the start. So it is interesting to see one that actually does something.
mm-hmm. And there will be like some more like other stuff later on, like other weaponry that is actually effective, not necessarily in a damaging way, but it's effective in other ways.
The only other time I can think of guns like actually coming into play in a Dragon Ball episode is like that one. I'm pretty sure it was a gag where Chi Chi's just packing heat for no reason. And she doesn't even do anything with it.
I think it was because she was trying to go to Namek because she was freaking out.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah, fun fact.
I think those were all Launch's guns too. She just found them.
Well, see, Toriyama remembered Launch's guns, just not Launch.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Launch had a gun. That was the only other thing, and it did.
Yeah.
It also did nothing.
And Goku got shot a lot during the Red Ribbon Army stuff, but
true. Oh yeah, also Alex Dragon Ball Z update. She's gotten to the driving arc, the driving test filler. She very much enjoyed it.
I saw the GIF she posted.
Alex also does not like Chi-Chi, as I've discovered. And I'm just like...
See, she's a lot more likable in the manga. It's the anime that really fucking plays her up as just being ridiculous.
She gets so much better at the end of Z, like after Goku dies, ironically.
And then she gets worse in Super.
Yeah, then it's like she just reverts back to her worst, and I'm just like, great.
But they backpedal everybody in Super.
True. I mean, the best version of Chi-Chi is technically non-canon, and that's the wedding dress arc, so...
Yeah, this is true.
My response to Alex is, though, she's like, I hate Chi-Chi. I'm like, but she's just trying to be a mom. She's like, she's so mean to Gohan. And I'm just like, yeah, she is, but I mean, she's trying to be a mom.
Did she not talk about her chasing the fucking abusive tutor off the property? Throwing him out the window?
I think when she texted me, she hadn't got there yet. But my favorite was her going, what happens to Icarus? And I'm just like, Toriyama forgot. Like, it's not important.
Icarus didn't exist in the manga. That's all filler.
I know. I love her react. She's giving me play-by-play of Z as she goes through it, and every time she asks a question, my either thing is like, I'm like, yep, that happens, or my response is, you did see Super, you know what happens here. But my favorite still is the little green Namekian sounds like Toru Honda, and I'm like, you mean Dende, who's in Super, and kind of important.
Yeah.
She's like,
but in Super, he's played by Justin Cook.
Well, yeah, he's older by then too.
But yeah, I don't know. It's I love how we just reverted into talking about Z instead of Daima.
Because nothing happened. It's just like I'm hoping. Because I mean, you've told me it gets better. Just these first 3 episodes are.
It amps up. It amps up later on and starts playing around with more like different stuff. Like I'm trying to remember if there was any big lore drops in this episode. I don't feel like there was.
No. Other than all the demons were like racist against Goku because he wasn't a demon.
I mean, there was a lot of like little like explanation stuff about the demon realm itself. Like they saw the big hole. We're like, oh, there's a shield there. You can't just pass through the demon worlds. Now you got to use warp to get there, and stuff like that. And then their plane gets stolen.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. That's gonna happen like a lot.
I can imagine.
They switch planes a lot in this show. Or in some cases, don't use them at all. You'll see what I mean.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
I guess I was gonna rate this episode. I'd probably give it like a 6. Like, I'm hoping it picks up soon because
It's
I've been,
it's very much a build-up episode.
yeah, because I've the whole time watching, I've just been like, I feel like I should have waited till it was done and then binged it, because like watching it week by week is like, it's like a tease. Like, you get a little bit and then it's like, nope, and you're like, okay, see you next week.
Well,
I
see,
guess.
now the Japanese is in the final stretch. They just released episode 16, and like even like the next episode preview, like up to this point, it's always been like literally just like one little tiny like 1 second snippet with an episode title. But the one that they gave for next week's episode yesterday was like a 30-minute, or not 30-minute, 30-second like showing a bunch of stuff. So like things are really cooking right now in the Japanese.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll have to see what goes on next week with episode 4, which I'll have to watch probably after this. Yeah. So that was Dima Time, our new series.
It's a little bit short-lived this week, but I
Yeah.
think starting next week is when we're going to start getting a lot more like a lot more stuff going on, more lore, stuff like that.
Hopefully, because it's been just sad. Like, I've been like, huh. It's like I feel like I should have waited a little bit, but
yeah, that's the downside. But I mean, I had to watch week to week with the Japanese, or else I'd get spoiled. And even
yeah.
still, like something got spoiled for me, which I really wish hadn't been. But that was my own fault for forgetting there was a new episode that week.
Yeah. Yeah, it happens.
But yeah.
All right. So our topic for this episode, we kind of alluded to it earlier. We actually watched doing another live action movie. We watched the 2018 Bleach live action film.
And now, Bill, you can say you watched Bleach.
Yeah, I managed to watch something Bleach related without falling asleep. So that's a good sign, because if anyone wants to know the lore with me in Bleach, I've tried to watch it about like 12 times, and every time I fall asleep like after an episode. So
yeah, it's another show that kind of has a slow, and especially like that era, like that was the point where a lot of animation styles were starting to change. So a lot of stuff that came out then, like even like going back to like the beginning of Naruto, was rough.
True, and
like
even
the
then,
beginning, like, actually, the beginning of all the big three is pretty rough.
True. And even then, like I always say, like when the big 3 were going on, I was more interested in the side stuff. So getting up at 5 in the fucking morning, the good times.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
this movie is, so when I put it in like the pantheon of live action adaptions we've watched so far, it's not the worst. Which is interesting, because the worst one technically I still think is great. Being the Death Note one. I think actually the worst one inherently that we've watched so far was the Full Metal Alchemist live action.
Yeah, which is disappointing.
See, the Death Note one, that's bad, but that's like bad in the amazing way. Like, because they just said fuck even trying to be accurate. Let's just do something stupid. And I can get enjoyment out of that. Full Metal Alchemist was just a kind of bland adaptation.
Yeah, it was kind of whatever. It's like they did their best trying to make the story like coherent and kind of fall in line with the original, but it just, I don't know, it just fell flat in a lot of ways. And I also just didn't like, I don't know why, but the combination of Vic Mignogna's voice with the Japanese actor's face just didn't work for me.
We'll get into that with this movie. But although ironically, I thought the fact that they got Aaron Discmu to play Alphonse, but it was his older voice, I thought that worked. And I'm actually really annoyed they didn't do that for like Brotherhood. Nothing against the lady that played him in Brotherhood. She did a great job as well, but I kind of liked his like adolescence voice he had going on there.
I mean, that's fair, but it makes it makes sense in context.
I know it does.
Context because his voice wasn't aging with him. Like he was
know.
technically in stasis. You know,
I
his
know.
soul at least.
I just kind of liked it. I thought it was actually a good voice.
Mhm. I mean, like if they had used him for like the scene in Brotherhood where Ed sees his body in like the Gates of Truth or whatever, if they had used Aaron Disney for that scene, that would have worked because
Well, I
that
mean,
that
he
was
did
his
get to
body. His body is aging, but
true. He did get to play young Honenheim, so that was that.
that's true. That's true.
But yeah, the
But we're
Full
not
Metal
here to talk about that series.
nah, that movie was bland. I put the Bleach movie kind of on the same level as the Zom 100 movie, where it's not like perfect by any means, but at least it tried.
And it's coherent enough. Um,
Although it does have some of that like there's a few moments in this movie where I watched it and I was just like, what year is this supposed to be?
I think it's very confused on that.
I have one prop I wanted to bring just because every time I saw it in the movie, I was like, fuck yeah. Um, did you remember seeing this multiple times throughout the movie?
I don't know.
This is a record he had on his wall in his bedroom that I every time I saw it, I'm like, holy shit, Bad Religion.
I remembered seeing a bunch of stuff on his wall, but and I was trying to like peek around and see what mangas he had on his shelf. But I know that like manga design and stuff is different in Japan, like than the releases we get over here. So it's hard to tell what he had.
It's crazy because like I didn't even notice that. I was distracted by the fucking Bad Religion album on the wall because I'm like, I love that album. But I'm sitting here thinking like, why this album? Like
Yeah.
This was like 2004. Like,
well, I
in
mean,
Japan,
to be fair, that was around the time Bleach, like the original Bleach anime came out. So
true. I never took Ichiko as a punk rock guy.
Mm.
Also, the soundtrack isn't punk rock at all, which it was a weird thing I noticed. I'm like, why is there a Bad Religion album on his wall?
I loved the soundtrack for this movie though. I thought the music was on point.
It's very metal. I do enjoy it.
Yeah, so by my reference at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah.
Because like when that song first kicks in, you're like, all right, I can vibe with this. This is a good tune. And then all of a sudden it ends the fucking verse with, and all you gotta do is drink all your milk. It's like, wait, what the fuck? What am I listening to? I need to find that song.
Japan's fun. Yeah, so some things I noticed right away. We watched it dubbed, which I love these live action movies dubbed because the dubs are always hilarious.
Oh, for sure.
This one was kind of cool because they got a lot of the cast back, but not all of them, which led to some very interesting observations.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they got Johnny Young Bosch back, which, to be honest, I'm not sure how I felt about it.
I personally, maybe it's just because I just finished watching the original anime, but like the actor worked for me in a way that Ed didn't in Full Metal Alchemist, and I felt like the voice and the face fit better. And
so the thing that bothered me, and this is a very specific complaint, but I watched a lot of Power Rangers growing up, and I know exactly what Adam Park looked like, who was played by Johnny Young Bosch. So I know his face, and it just my mind was like, no, this doesn't work. Like it's like that's not Johnny Young Bosch. I know too well what he looks like, and it just threw me off the entire time. That being said, the performance was great. Like he did a great. His Ichiko voice is literally like his standard voice. Like he doesn't really change it that much, to be honest.
Yeah, except for when he's yelling, because he's got a very like distinct. Like I don't know, because I've heard him in an outrageous amount of roles, because he's just kind of one of those. He's one of those voice actors for anime where he's just fucking all over the place. He's one of those very in demand actors like Steve Bloom. I don't know why I said Steven.
Troy Baker. Well,
yeah, Troy Baker. At this point, Bryce Papenbrook is in that pantheon as well.
Matt Mercer, like the big times.
Yeah. So I mean, I've heard his performance in lots of other stuff.
Oh, he's the main character in my favorite game of all time. So
yeah.
Not that he says much in the game itself, but in all the supplying media. He's also the villain in my favorite game of all time. It's funny dynamic.
Yeah, but in general, like I personally feel like there is a distinct difference in the way he plays Ichigo than how he plays other characters. And I've noticed that like that really carries through in this movie, and again, I think it works with the actor that they chose for Ichigo.
Yeah, there was a couple that matched the anime. Like it was Johnny Young Bosch in particular. Stephanie Sheh, but she had like 5% to do in this movie. So
Yeah, Orihime was really underutilized. Orihime and Chad were both extremely underutilized in this movie.
Chad got to do something. At least like Orihime just sits there and
He
goes,
caught a sign.
yeah.
And he
Orihime
threw
just
that one guy at the beginning.
yeah. Orihime just has high school gossip the entire movie to the point I didn't even realize that's who that character was supposed to be. I was like, oh wait,
Well, they also didn't give her orange hair. Like she's supposed to be a redhead.
It had slight highlights, and I was like, "Is that who that's supposed to be?" And I was like, "Nah, that can't be." And then they said her name, and I was like, "Oh, that's." I was like, "Huh."
Well, I'm just saying, like they went out of their way to dye the Ichigo actor's hair. Like, why not do it for her? Like they gave Renji fucking like deep red hair.
Oh, can
like,
we talk
what's
about?
the big deal?
Can we talk about Renji real quick? Because that fucking threw me off.
I didn't even notice that.
Oh, I did. Well, because I just watched the entire series, so his voice is stuck in my head at the moment. Renji, he was recast because in the anime, I think he's voiced by Wally Wingert, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, let me double check on that. Yeah, Wally Wingert is his voice in the anime. In the live action, instead he's voiced by Richard Cancino, other known as the voice of Kenshin in the 96 dub. And that's all I could hear. But he's like significantly older here, so you can hear it in his voice, and it just sounds like old Kenshin who finally had enough of everybody's shit.
It was funny too because he was a redhead.
Yeah, and a swordsman, but he was killing people this time around. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
But there were moments where I was just waiting for him to say like do one of his goofy voice things. I'm like, no, this is serious. Yeah. Yeah. That threw me off though when I heard it because I was like, that can't be. And I looked it up, I'm like, it is. I'm like, is he in the anime? Because I might not be able to watch the anime if that's true. And then
it was funny. Is Chad's voice act like I could tell that wasn't the same actor as the anime, but he sounded super familiar. I looked it up and it was he's the actor who played Guts in the 2016 Berserk anime.
Kaji Tang, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he's a bunch of other people, but
well, he had a few voices in the series because he was originally voiced in the anime. He was originally voiced by Mark Warden from episode 2 to 85, and then he switched over to Jameson Price from 86 to 366.
But in general, as far as like the like live action actors, not the voiceover actors, everybody was like pretty on point with like how they were supposed to look for the anime, with the exception of like Orihime's hair.
Yeah.
Except Rukia. Rukia was the only one who I thought looked off and didn't really fit.
Rukia looked not to be offensive. This is just an observation. Rukia looked like generic Japanese woman, like Japanese schoolgirl.
Yeah.
Also, her voice,
and they also recasted her voice as well.
Yeah, it wasn't Michelle Ruff. It was Cassandra Morris, who is another pretty high profile actress. It was just weird, like because they don't sound anything really like. And she didn't really look like Rukia.
No, not at all. And that's the thing is like literally every other major character in this movie like actually looked like the character they were supposed to be playing, except for her.
Yeah, even like Chad looked well, other than the other girl. She also looked kind of generic high school girl, but
yeah. Well, that's just kind of a danger when you do these kinds of movies, is that tends to happen.
Yeah, I mean, also she had like legit like 3 lines in this movie, so.
Yeah, and most of them were like, I had to say, like, just interject here. Like, I loved the running joke where Ichigo's friend would just be like, "Oh my god, did you hear? A car went through Ichigo's house. He died on impact." It's just, and he did that joke like 3 times.
Yeah.
And every time she buys it.
Yeah. See, it's not watching the show. I was very confused by a lot of this stuff.
But
oh man,
I mean, all told, like as far, I mean, we'll get into like the specifics of the story itself, but I think they did a really good job. I mean, they had to shift some stuff around, and there was a couple things they omitted that I was a little upset about. But for the most part, they hit all the points they really needed to hit for this movie, like covering the first arc of the show. I was honestly really surprised with how well they did with, like, they basically took like 16 episodes and turned it into a 2-hour movie.
I'm just curious what this movie has on reception wise.
I'm guessing not great, because they set it up for a second movie and it never happened. This movie came out like 6-7 years ago.
So it got a 67. That's Rotten Tomatoes. That's not terrible. I mean,
honestly, I feel like it deserves, as far as like these kinds of movies, like the anime, like live action adaptations, like this one's, I feel like one of the better ones.
That's why I said it. I put it on par with like Zom 100. Like it wasn't a perfect adaptation, but it was close enough. Like there was a lot of, it was pretty much on point.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where you could tell, like, if they had continued it, it would have improved, like, with each like successive one. But like, with them just dropping it where it is, it's like they could have done a lot more with it.
I think the problem is we watched the best one first, and that just has made everything so much harder to compare.
Well, there are other good ones. We're just saving those for later.
Yeah,
we got another so bad it's good one, like on par with Death Note, and then we got another one that's just objectively good.
Yeah, the Kenshin movie though, that one is just like, it's shocking how good that is, and that one isn't even it's not even an accurate adaptation. It takes its own twists and turns and manages to make it work.
Yeah, it definitely takes liberties, but it does it with style for sure.
Fucking gold Gatling gun.
Yeah.
I was waiting for that when I watched, because I watched that before the anime, and then when I watched the anime, I was waiting for that fucking Gatling gun. It doesn't show up, and I was like, damn.
Well, he uses a Gatling gun, and it's just not solid gold.
Yeah, it's not as fun as that thing was.
So yeah, I mean, it pretty much covered the whole, like, Ichigo, like, well, he meets Rukia in pretty much the exact same way as the anime. And like, they really kind of played their relationship in a very similar way, but I feel like he was a lot more resistant to actually like doing the Soul Reaper thing than he was in the show. Which, I mean, makes sense, because they kind of have to go a little harder to get the point across, because they don't have as much time to work with.
I will say I love that scene at the beginning where he's like beating up the fucking punks, and he's like, "You knocked over the flowers." Like,
yeah. I'm pretty sure that's actually how he's introduced in the anime as well. It's a very similar thing. But I love like Chad just comes up out of nowhere and just fucking like throws that dude like a mile.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest gripes I have with this movie, is it really kind of downplayed Chad and Orihime, but especially Chad, because I like Chad as a character.
Basically, anyone who wasn't Ichigo or Rukia doesn't do anything in this. Well, there was the guy with the bow.
Yeah, Uryu.
Is he
who also was the same voice actor from the anime.
Okay. Okay. Good to know.
Which he also played a lot of extras in this movie as well, I noticed. And a lot of that kind of play, like, because in the anime, Renji and Byakuya don't show up until after the whole thing with where Uryu like challenges Ichigo and he throws the hollow bait, which they didn't explain at all. I don't know if you like caught that was what he was doing.
No, I had no idea.
Yeah, because after he's like, "Oh, I challenge you," blah blah blah, and he pulls something out and throws it off the building. That was like hollow bait, and that's why a bunch of hollows are showing up all at once.
Oh,
and that was supposed to be the point in the show where Chad and Orihime develop their powers and become like more consistent characters, but they just completely throw that to the side in this movie.
Yeah, clearly, because they don't do anything with like anyone that isn't the main three, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And that third one he's barely attack on either.
Yeah. But I mean, he had his role to play, and I think it worked out pretty well.
He did something.
Yeah, for sure. I liked a lot of the training stuff too, like all the like silly things they had to do for training.
I was
the
really
sword play in this movie was really good.
Yeah, it was. It didn't seem fake like a lot of movies tend to be. It's interesting watching it. I was like, well, in my head, I really wanted Eye of the Tiger to start playing in the background for some reason, but
It's about right.
the entire time I was like, okay, this is fun. Like, this is just goofy shit. And I love, my favorite is the scene where they're like sword fighting in the park, and you just see all the people walking by, like being like, what's going on over there? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, especially with the fucking Orihime being like, what the fuck? Like,
yeah, she walks over.
I love
right
that
when
she's
he's
all fucking jealous about Rukia, but like she's literally just beating the shit out of him.
Well, it's funny because she walked over right at the point where like he's right on top of Rukia, and it's like this is a. I'm like, oh, I know what's gonna happen now, and it's like, sure enough, there she is.
Mm-hmm.
This character that's had like no development in this film so far.
Yeah, yeah. That's one of the things that I'm really upset about because I doubt that this movie's going to get a second at this point. It's been almost 7 years.
Yeah.
And it's really upsetting because there's a lot of potential here. This could have done really well. Like if they done it as like kind of Kenshin style.
It also came out at a weird year for Bleach. Like 2018, Bleach was like no one gave a shit about Bleach.
Yeah, because I don't think Thousand Year Blood War had started for another like couple years.
Yeah, that was like around like the 2020s when that had started.
By that point, when the whole when Bleach was starting to come into prominence again, COVID happened.
Yeah, so it was just a weird like time frame when it came out.
Yeah.
And I feel like just people were because also Bleach was getting a bad reputation by that point.
Somewhat. I mean, I definitely think Bleach did better over here than it did in Japan. So I'm surprised that it got that level of care in a Japanese live action movie than otherwise, because there's a lot of other movies that have come out over there that are a lot worse than this one. Coming to mind specifically, the Attack on Titan live action movie is absolutely horrific.
Oh boy, I'm sure we'll get to that eventually.
At some point, I have it on Blu-ray. I've only watched, there's 2 of them. I've only watched the first one, but honestly, I'm not sure where that is. It's somewhere.
This is unrelated, but I was going through my game collection and I realized I own the freaking Attack on Titan game for some reason.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like sitting there, I'm like, PS4. I was just going through. I'm like, I pulled it. I'm like, why do I own this? Like, I was just like sitting here thinking, like, I don't even. At the time, I hadn't watched the show, and I still haven't to this day. I'm like, why do I own the fucking PS4 game? I was like,
you know what's funny? The second one's on Vita.
Yeah, the second one's actually hard to find.
No kidding.
It went up in price a lot.
Yeah, well, I mean, the show kind of got really big, so I'm not surprised.
Going back to what I was saying though about Bleach, like I think because 2018 was around that point where a lot of people, because that's like when like the anti-filler people really started because anime was starting to blow up. It hadn't really hit the crazy peak yet where it is now, where now it's just mainstream. But I remember a lot of like when you were just getting into anime, you'd ask about Bleach, people would be like, oh, Bleach is fun. Like it's really good at points, and then it's absolutely garbage at points, and it gets back to being good, and it goes back to being absolute garbage. And I'm just like, oh, that's a good sign.
Yeah. It's the filler, man. It's like what we were saying last week. Like Bleach is in desperate need for a Kai.
It's funny how somehow Naruto Shippuden, the filler in that show is arguably worse than most of these shows, but like people just for some reason, I guess it's because it's really easy to skip. Because I guess in Bleach it's not as easy to skip because of it's just how weird.
They're both Studio Pierrot, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe so.
I mean, they kind of do it similarly between Shippuden and Bleach.
They've learned their lesson because in they also did Black Clover, and they tried it in Black Clover and realized this isn't going to work, so they just ended the show instead.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, I forget. Is it the same studio who's doing Thousand Year Blood War,
I don't know. I can check.
or I'm not sure if they stuck with the same people or not.
Let's see. So the original series was Studio Pierrot, and then Thousand Year Blood War is. This doesn't help me, Wikipedia. Um, well, that
I'll
doesn't.
look into it later.
It doesn't say. That's great.
I'll look into it. Well, I'm gonna be watching the series very soon anyway, so it's gonna have it right in the opening title sequence anyway.
All it says is it premiered on TV Tokyo.
Okay, fair enough. So yeah, I love the scene in the movie where like, I think like Orihime went to go like I think it was actually when she caught them while they were training.
It's on a different Wikipedia page. It was Studio Pierrot.
Oh, okay, that's good. Well, I guess they did learn that lesson then because they're doing that in parts, like specific seasons.
Well, because nowadays people don't. You don't have to keep it going because people's interest is very different these days, and people will wait.
Yeah, I think the big three was like that was like the big thing where it was like, okay, we need to start doing a seasonal anime. Like we need to just like do a certain story arc or like part of a story arc and then just put it down and take our time with it and not just make up random shit with varying levels of quality.
Because not everyone can do a Full Metal Alchemist.
Yeah,
and make it somehow work.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, the scene, I think it was the one that we were just talking about where Orihime catches them, like, where, like, they fall on each other or whatever. And, like, Rukia, like, sits up and she's like, oh, greetings, fair Orihime. He's like, what the fuck are you talking like that?
Yeah. I said, the best part of that scene, though, is, like, she doesn't react at all. Like, she just stands there while they're having this whole monologue. And then she's like, okay, see you later, and just walks off. And I'm like,
yeah, right?
Like, Jesus Christ. They couldn't afford that actress to do anything, I guess.
I guess. I mean, maybe she's a big name or something. I don't know. Maybe they could only afford a certain.
I mean, Stephanie Sheh. I mean, even acting wise, Stephanie Sheh is kind of expensive. She's like one of the main.
I meant the Japanese actor.
I know.
But yeah, like a lot of the fights were done really well
in
the show or in the movie, rather. Actually, I felt really blue-balled because the fact that we're not getting more of this, when we actually saw the like how Renji's Shikai worked, that's what they call like the awakened form of the swords.
Mm-hmm.
Like they did that really well. Like the whole I don't even know how you describe that. The kind of like, oh, for lack of a better term, the slinky sword.
Yeah.
I don't even know what you would call that, but so that's what I'm going to call it. The slinky sword worked really well, and the effects were done really well. And this movie had like a lot of movies like this tend to feel kind of claustrophobic. Like no matter where the setting is, like movies like to this degree generally tend to feel like kind of tight and cornered. This one felt a lot more open to me. Like it didn't feel like any like the settings were changing a lot, and even though it takes place in a city, it didn't feel cramped.
I will say the effects were pretty good, except for the monsters. I thought the monsters all looked goofy as fuck.
Well, that's just what hollows look like. I thought the effects themselves for the hollows were decent.
The weird like the last one that they fought, I forgot the name of it. That one was okay. Yeah, that one was okay. The spider looked dumb. I won't lie. The spider, I was like,
yeah, the spider was dumb. But actually, that one was supposed to be Orihime's. Like Orihime was supposed to fight that. That was how she was supposed to awaken her power. But
no, instead he just flails his sword at it.
Yeah. But yeah, the Grand Fisher was done really well, and that was actually like all that was consistent with the show. Like that is actually the hollow that killed his mom and all that other shit.
I do like the scene where like he's about to fight it, and then his dad shows up, and she's just like, "Go to sleep," and she's like, "You can take a nap for a little bit."
which is really funny. I'm just gonna tell you because I know you have no intention of ever watching the show to like fully, but it's actually really funny that happened because his dad turns out is actually a Soul Reaper,
Oh,
which is like part of the reason why like Ichigo's like powers like were just so like second nature to him is because he's genetically a Soul Reaper.
oh, huh. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if they go more into more detail about that in Thousand Year Blood War, but at least as far as the anime goes, like the original anime, they never really get into how he ended up on Earth with a family. So I don't really know if he's like just a substitute like he is, or if he was like a legitimate Soul Reaper from the Soul Society, and just like dipped like Urahara did, who also was severely and tragically underused in this movie. The guy with the hat.
Yeah, yeah. He showed up for like a few seconds and then left.
He's just like, "Hey, you're gonna get the death penalty for this," and she's like, "Well, I better not get caught." And then, like, literally, the next scene is just like, "Hey, Rukia gave her powers to a human. We should go kill her."
Yeah. um. Yeah, it's. I'm not great at explaining. Like, what was any other particular scenes you wanted to highlight, or?
um, I don't know. I mean, there was a lot going on in this movie. It's a really busy movie, but like not in a way that was overwhelming to me.
I was surprised
I
how,
like
for considering how violent Bleach can be, they really did not do a lot with the blood in this movie.
no. Well, I mean, they did a little bit towards the end when Byakuya just absolutely wrecked Ichigo.
Yeah, and even then, that was that was like rated T, like level of
Yeah.
violence. The most blood you see in this movie is that when you get the little flashback to his mom being dead and she's just coated in blood, and I was like, oh, there's the Bleach fight I know and love.
Yep. Or know and tolerate.
No, yeah, I know it.
I am aware of its existence.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything in particular I want to highlight. I mean, there was a lot of like silly stuff that we could talk about. Like for instance, anytime fucking Rukia whipped out that glove was just goofy. Like it was fucking. I don't know if it's just like Japanese acting or something. Because whenever you see like a Japanese actor running, at least for
Yeah,
me, like the movies I've seen, it always looks goofy as fuck to me.
it's like in Star Trek Voyager, that one scene where they had Kate Mulgrew run, and it was like, this is why she never runs again in the series.
Yeah. But like I just feel like that scene, like when Uryu tosses the bait, and then Rukia bursts in, it's like, oh, there's hollows, I gotta do the thing, and she runs towards him and fucking like smacks him out of his body. I feel like that scene would have like that scene and every other scene where she done that would have been more effective if she just walked up to him and did it. Like
No, you got to
it's
be
like she
dramatic.
just tries to do it super dramatic and it just does not land at all.
I also, the way that actress like delivers her lines in the Japanese, basically, Cassandra Lee Morris had to freaking like talk like super speed at times to match the lip sync. So like her acting was all over the place at times,
Yeah, yeah.
which is inherently just a problem with dubbing these movies because you're either going to get that or you're going to get them just the lips don't match at all and it's awkward. It's going to be awkward either way because dubbing these things is just movie.
I will say the like physical actor for Uryu like looks exactly the way I would have imagined a live action version of that character looking.
Yes.
So that was like perfect. But yeah, I mean, aside from that, like the ending, like Ichigo gets his shit stomped, and weirdly enough, Rukia takes her powers back at the end of this movie, which isn't how it happened in the show. She just kind of left while Ichigo was laying there bleeding out to go get executed. And I mean, technically, Ichigo loses his powers at that point. Then he has to like regain them, but doesn't happen the same way.
I was wondering about that because I was like, wait a minute, how does the show work?
Because in the show, it was like you have a thing called a soul chain, And once it's like, it's hard to explain. Basically, like souls have like a soul chain that come out of their chest, and if that soul chain is severed and you're alive, you'll die. And if it's severed while you're dead, then it just kind of like eventually corrodes. And once it's gone, like that part on your chest where it's connected, that goes away, and that's how you become a hollow. Um, so the way they explain it in the show is Byakuya specifically cut that, and that was why he was like laying there dying. But the guy with the hat shows up and saves him and is like, okay, I have this way that we're gonna get you to regain your powers, and you can go and save Rukia, blah blah blah. But this movie kind of makes it seem like she's not actually still going to be executed after the fact.
Yeah, the ending was very ambiguous because, as someone who hasn't watched the show, I was like, how does it go on from here?
It's just so weird though, because it like, that's one thing I'll say is like the whole like Renji and Byakuya thing, like it didn't make any sense because they would just be like, oh, just kill him, just kill him, just kill him. And it's just like, well, okay, well, if you just stick around for like 2 months, dude, we can get him strong enough and everything will be fine. Like it's not a big deal. And if it's a thing where we can just wipe his memory anyway, like what is the big deal? Like why are we freaking out about this? It's not that big a fucking deal.
Did she have that sudden like change in personality at the end in the anime as well, or was that just to wrap up the movie?
That yes, but that was because Byakuya was just gonna straight up kill him, and that was kind of her way to be like, I'm just gonna go with you. I'm gonna pretend that I'm with you on this, and she's basically just like, oh, he's gonna die anyway. Just leave him there. You know, let him have his last few minutes of life, and then they leave, and then the guy with the hat shows up and saves him. So it was, you know, it's just kind of a way to a ploy to give him more time and hopefully survive.
Yeah, I feel like it's weird. The ending to me felt like they were planning a sequel, but then at the last minute they changed it to make it ambiguous enough that they could just kind of make it be like, this is also could be just a standalone ending.
Yeah, well, I mean, the very last line of the movie made it very clear that they were definitely leaving it open for a sequel.
Yeah, but they didn't explicably. They didn't. It wasn't like a cliffhanger ending. It was just kind of a. It could happen.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, he won't remember me, I think.
And yeah, it wasn't. Because nothing's worse than like when they're so confident about it. It's not like the Mario Brothers movie where it ends with like this, like, we'll see you in the next adventure. That's never gonna happen because this movie's a fucking dumpster fire.
But I don't know. All in all, I thought the movie was very enjoyable. Like, especially if you're a Bleach fan, it's definitely worth a watch.
I managed to watch it without falling asleep, so that's already a plus for me because Bleach.
Yeah.
Bleach is how I go to sleep when I'm tired, when I can't fall asleep.
Mm-hmm. But
it's an honorable distinction in the pantheon of anime.
Yeah, no kidding. Also, totally unrelated note. I don't know why I just noticed this, but all the MCs for the big three wear sandals.
You're right.
Isn't that weird? I don't know why I never noticed that before.
Also, only one of them's voiced by a man.
Yeah.
I just thought about that. Because Naruto has always been Mally Flanagan, and then Luffy is Colin Clickenbeard.
The Johnny Young Bosch over there in the corner. The one that's considered to be like the worst out of the three.
Yeah. Well, I mean... Well, no, they're all still going, technically.
Yeah, technically. Well, I mean, Naruto's been on hiatus or Boruto's been on hiatus for a bit, and will likely remain so for at least a good few years.
True. And even then, let's face it, he hasn't been the main character of that show, so.
True. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you knew this, but they released more dub for Boruto and Shippuden on Hulu.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, they got all the rest of the Boruto dub, and there's only 15 episodes at the very end of Shippuden that they haven't put on there yet.
Oh, so the fun after the war shit that like no one ever watches because it's not the stuff that happens after the last that I really enjoyed.
Well, honestly, I'm just happy that the fucking I can actually watch the war dub. Like, I'm gonna be like, sorry, Cindy. I know we're watching Naruto, but you know, I'm watching Shippuden because I don't know when they're gonna decide to say, hey, fuck you, we're getting rid of it. So I need to watch it dubbed while I have the chance.
Well, I think Disney has the licensing rights for it right now, so it should be fine for a while.
Yeah, we'll see. Hulu's always been fucking weird about that show.
Yeah, I mean, I have all the physicals, so I'm not worried, but
Yeah, at some point, I'll have to steal those missing episodes from you.
that'll be a lot of ripping.
Yeah, but I mean, 13 episodes. Is it 12 or 13 episodes set? Like,
Depends on the set. Some of
and
them are more.
I have up to like a little bit into the war. Like, I have like up to like the point where they seal away zombie Asuma. I think that's where my depth cuts off.
Okay.
So
Yeah, it's all
I only
over
need
the
from that
place.
point onward.
I still remember when the war ended, like when that dub first came out, because that was like a big deal at the time, and then now Baruto's already fucking over. It's crazy.
Well, kind of.
Well, the anime is the first part of it's over, anyways. So,
Which is weird because they, from what I understand, they cut the anime off before when it was before they got to Boruto Part 2 in the manga. So I don't know how they're going to handle that when the anime comes back, but
I'm sure it'll involve several filler arcs.
well, hopefully not, because there's plenty for them to work with at this point, especially if they're going to be waiting like 4 more years to come out with any more anime. They have plenty of time to fucking build up a backlog.
True, but this is Studio Pierrot doing Naruto. They need like 7 filler arcs in between everything.
Ugh. Yeah, but they're also doing Thousand Year Blood War, so they know what works and what doesn't. They should know. They should learn.
They do, but it's Naruto. They have to put. It needs the filler arcs for some reason.
It's bullshit. Naruto's the one who needs them the least. Naruto, like, I'm sorry to all the One Piece and Bleach fans out there, but I personally feel like Naruto has the best story out of the big 3. I know I might get some hate for saying that, but like beginning to end, like as far as like and um to be fair, One Piece isn't over yet, but like it's hard to say like a show that big and expanding is the best just because it's big and expanding and has like that kind of level of. I mean, maybe the One Piece will change it. I don't know. Maybe the One Piece will be the thing that kind of like breaches that gap for me. But it just takes too damn long to watch One Piece for me to be able to say it's the best. And I can't even say that Naruto is any like that much better. But when you cut out the filler from Naruto, it's significantly shorter. And hell, Bleach is only like fucking. Like if you cut out all the filler from Bleach, it's like 200 episodes, which isn't that bad.
Yeah, I picked the easy one. That's a very easy watch.
I'm just saying. Like I personally feel like Naruto has the best story, the best build up, the best reveals.
It does. I think it does the best with the amount of considering the amount of characters it has.
Mm-hmm.
Like it manages to tie everyone's stories off fairly cohesively.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody, granted, because like some characters just kind of like some of the characters in Bardo are just like, and this is where they are now, and it's like, oh, how'd this happen?
We still don't know who Rock Lee impregnated.
He spawned him. He just one day another one appeared, and it was like,
he just like an amoeba.
Hello, son. That's my theory, anyways.
That's what Guy did to Lee, and that's what Lee did to Metal.
He just spawned a new one. It's like, you are my son.
Yes, he just went and found an orphan. It's just like, yes, you.
I like the idea that it was osmosis. He just made another one out of thin air.
And, you know, it's funny too because like we never saw anything about Lee's parents either. So it's like, is Lee and Metal just like an enigma?
This is my
just exist.
This is my headcanon. They spawn out of nowhere.
You see what it is Lee spawned from a rock, and then other Lee spawned from like steel. And that's where their names come from.
We're going too deep into this. Yeah, so that was the Bleach movie. I gave it a solid 7. Like, it didn't convince me to watch Bleach. I will say that, but I
so
managed
not as good as the Kenshin movie.
Well, because that was just so good, it made me actually want to know.
That's fair.
I still think the Zom movie was probably better, but
yeah, well, I mean, they were also working with less material. Like
True.
the Zom movie was about the same length, about 2 hours, right? And it covered about 6 episodes worth of material. So it pretty much covered 2 hours worth of material in 2 hours.
Yeah.
So I mean, they could like put that together much more cohesively. With the Bleach movie, they kind of had to jam pack a lot more in there, and a lot of stuff gets left on the wayside because of that.
True.
So it's just kind of like one of the things that any movie that tries to pack that much into it is going to suffer. That's just how it is.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. And I think with this one too, it was just so jam-packed that they didn't really... Unfortunately, I just feel like it was one of those things where it just wasn't going to stand a chance in the era
Especially
it came out.
With the timing. Yeah, the timing of it. Because even if they were planning on making another one, COVID happened just a couple of years later, and that seriously put the kibosh on a lot of projects.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially for a movie that was only just considered okay.
Mm-hmm. I'd probably give it a slightly bigger rating, maybe like a 7.5, just because I recently watched Bleach and I have the comparison for it, and it's actually, while actually being a decent coherent movie, it also follows along with the plot very well. So
yeah,
I give it a slight bump for that, but yeah, I'd say it's about the same.
I don't have the nostalgia for it, so I just kind of was like, it was good, but it didn't really sway my opinion on the source material at all.
And I love the soundtrack. The soundtrack was great.
The soundtrack was, I mean, I think I got way too excited about the fact that there was a Bad Religion album just chilling in the background at one point. But I think it happens to be the fact that I just really like that album.
Ichigo seems the type.
It threw me off because like anytime he was in his room and I just saw it there, I was completely distracted by whatever the scene where he's talking to Rukigo in the in his closet. I'm like, Bad Religion album in the background, and I'm just like singing the song in my head the whole time.
Oh, jeez.
But yeah. So that was a good chat. I think we only talked about the movie for like 30 minutes, but
we talked about it longer than we did for Daima, so that's something.
True.
Very that's true. That's just how this show goes. We jump around. We'll start talking about a topic, and then we'll get sidetracked, and then we'll jump back to it. It's fine.
Yeah, it happens.
We still got more of a conversation out of this than we did about Death Note. You know what's funny is I think we've talked about the Death Note movie more outside of the episode we did on it than we have in the episode.
Well, it's because it's fun to reference, but like talking about it in like a sitting is harder because it's like the movie itself is such a mess that you're always like you're trying to remember what happened, but then like when you're just thinking of the funny things, you can be like, yeah, like when he gets stuck in the classroom or fucking Ferris wheel bullshit or some other stuff like that.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
But yeah. So, anyways, guys, once again, thank you for joining us on Geek Addicts. You can find Geek Addicts on all the major podcasting platforms, particularly Apple Podcast and Spotify. And be sure to check us out over on the Superpod Network. That is superpodnetwork.com. Awesome site, a whole bunch of different podcasts, videos, blogs, and a whole bunch of awesome shows like Superpod Saga, Super Ghost Radio, Retro Rehab, Tommy's Video Game Ride Along, and All Console, Bar Silence, Find Time, the Elder Trolls Gaming Podcast, Remember 64, Gaming Together, Friday Night Gamecast, Gaming and Collecting, the 3DO Experience, Geek Addicts, the Retro Wildlands, press B to cancel the pre-order bonus the pre-order bonus podcast, Retro Mo reviews, and the newest show, because Tommy can't help himself. We have Tommy and Grant go podcasting. We're gonna get the Tommy cinematic universe pretty soon, where we can see like all the different podcasts he's been involved with at one point.
You know, at this point, because Aaron keeps adding more people to the network, more shows, you got to just do like a pre-recorded thing and just put it at the end of every episode because it's getting ridiculous. You got to start losing your voice one of these days.
Yeah, probably. I'm getting good at remembering them all. I only mess up the newer ones really at this point.
Yeah, it's fair.
But yeah, once again, guys, thank you for joining us, and we will see you all next time.
Have a good one.